Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
Coming up, Mexico has opened its first consulate in Idaho. What services will it provide, and what's the relationship between Idaho and Mexico? We'll talk with the new Mexican Consul to Idaho and take your questions next on Dialogue. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. A welcome as well to those of you listening on public radio and the World Wide Web. An estimated 156,000 people in Idaho are Hispanic. That's 10% of the state's population. And the overwhelming majority of Hispanics in Idaho, more than 129,000 people, are of Mexican descent. Those numbers are high enough that the Mexican government decided to open a consulate in Idaho, kind of a mini embassy. Previously, the closest Mexican consulate was in Salt Lake City, which was too far for many people to travel. Supporters of a consulate here had collected thousands of signatures in a petition drive. The U.S. State Department gave the go-ahead for the consulate to open its doors over the objections of former Idaho Representative Bill Sally. He was concerned that the office would give illegal immigrants ID cards that could be used for government services. The consulate will in fact help Mexican citizens in Idaho and Montana apply for various legal documents such as ID cards, passports, and birth certificates, and will assist them in emergencies or with law enforcement situations. But the office will also interact with non-Mexicans on cultural, tourism, trade, and immigration issues. The consulate has also been involved in education regarding the H1N1 virus and travel to Mexico. And here to tell us more about the role and responsibilities of the Mexican Consulate in Idaho is its director, Consul Ricardo Pineda. Consul Pineda comes to Idaho from San Diego, where he was the Deputy Consul General there. A career diplomat, he also served at the Mexican Embassy in Washington, D.C., working on border issues. He's a native of Mexico City. Welcome.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you to Idaho Public Television for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
Really thrilled to be here.
No problem. Do you have a question about Idaho's Mexican Consulate, the relationship between our state and Mexico, or perhaps about the country itself, such as how to do trade there or where to travel? Give us a call at 1-800-973-9800. Well, first of all, how much did you know about Idaho before you came here?
Now, enough. I mean, it's a lovely state. I've discovered Idaho and Montana because both states are my responsibility in terms of the consulate. So I've been traveling all around Idaho and Montana. I'm really happy because I have found really warm people, really nice people. We have been really well received, and up to now we have kind of performed pretty well, starting providing service to the Mexican community, but also attending some questions from Anglo person, from American citizens that wants to go to Mexico, that have some concerns regarding going to Mexico, or that just want to ask for us regarding how is the location in Cancun, how is a location, a specific location, or some other interest regarding history or economics or geography or something like that.
Well, many people are familiar, I think, with what an embassy is. In Washington, D.C., countries have embassies. But let's talk a little bit about what a consulate is. We were there the other day. We have footage of the Consulate of Mexico here in Idaho. Why does the government of Mexico need a presence in Idaho? Why need a consulate here?
That's a very good question. The Mexican government has up to now 50 consulates in the U.S. Why it is important to have a consulate here in Idaho? Because the size of the Mexican community. So we go to provide, and we are here for that, to provide services to the Mexican community on a number of issues, mainly Mexican documents like IDs, but also we are here for a number of other issues. I would like to refer mainly here that we are here to foster trade.
Foster trade.
To foster our cultural relation, to make a presence as a Mexico, as a Mexicans. No, because I'm not sure that you know about it. We are hardworking people.
Hardworking people.
But we are also people that have cultural representations. And we really would like to bring that to Boise City, to Idaho State, and to Montana State.
Well, as we can see from the footage, there were quite a few people there the day that I was there. I understand that something like between 100 and 200 people sometimes are coming to the consulate in Boise for services. There's quite a need, yes?
On a daily basis, yes. And we can expect a little bit more than that. There is a need because the nearest consulate to Boise, Idaho is Salt Lake City. It's 5 hours driving, no? When they need a document or something, they just had to make a reservation, go over there, pass the night, go and ask for the services, and return. So that way they can stay here, they can ask the service here, and we can provide it here.
We saw an ID card go by, and we see people getting their pictures taken for the ID cards. This was part of the controversy, if you will, prior to the consulate opening, was about these ID cards, these Mexican ID cards. What are they? Why are they needed? And I guess answer the concern that Representative Sally and others have that these ID cards that they can get at your consulate could be used by undocumented people to get government services here in the United States.
No more unfunded like that. I mean, the Mexican ID, the Mexican or matricula consular, as everyone knows it, is a Mexican registration. Now, every people that lives abroad, especially in the U.S., no, if they want to go and register to the consulate, we can register them. That's an ID what we provide after they fully prove that they are Mexicans, that they were born in Mexico, and that they have full documents as Mexicans. Once they go to us and prove that, we are entitled to issue that kind of document. And that document is just for identity purposes.
But it can be used to open, for instance, a bank account in the United States.
They can use because it's a media or a way to present himself to the bank. No, but I know that the banks also ask for some other IDs.
But it's not used. For instance, there was a concern that perhaps it could be used for government benefits here, for health and welfare benefits and such.
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. It's a Mexican ID that we have been using it since the last 100 years.
We are talking with the first consul to Idaho from Mexico, Ricardo Pineda. If you have questions for him about what the consulate does or any other issues about Mexican and Idaho relations, please give us a call on our toll-free number, 1-800-973-9800. So in addition to ID cards, just really briefly, other things that you might give out would be, say, birth certificates if somebody wanted to register the birth of their child and make sure that it was registered as a dual citizen or citizen of Mexico.
We had several situations in this matter. For example, one person that is in Idaho, Mexican descendant, a wife, which is a Mexican also, happened to have a baby in Idaho, for example, a newborn in Idaho. Well, he is entitled as a new U.S. citizen. If they have parents that are from Mexico, well, the little kid, the little baby, is entitled to be a Mexican also. So we can register them to the consulate. We are here for that. They are entitled for a dual citizenship.
And there's a whole list of other types of documents that people can get there. I'm curious why you located the consulate in Boise as opposed to, say, Canyon County, where upwards of 20% of the population there is Hispanic, much of it Mexican-American. Why not locate it there?
But the Mexican way just wanted to be in the center of the political life of Idaho. Is the capital city, no? And we want to depart from here to any county around Idaho and Montana to go and provide service to our people. We want to build a relation of cooperation with the political authorities in Idaho. We want to build a relation with all the actors here that has an impulse to the bilateral relationship. And from here we want to reach out our communities. And if you take into account that our communities are distributed from southeast to northwest,
right.
So we
kind of central.
We are kind of in the center, in the middle of Idaho.
Well, let's see if we can take a phone call from Tony. Tony, are you there from Nampa?
I'm right here.
Hi,
yes,
go ahead,
here.
Please.
Well, I think it's a great idea to have a Mexican consulate here because my wife is actually from Mexico, and I think it's just wonderful. I think that they should definitely do it.
What do you think you would use? What services would you use of the Mexican consulate here, you and your wife?
Oh, just rather than the passport services and stuff like that. I mean, rather than have to go all the way to Salt Lake, I think we should definitely have a consulate here. Just for as large as the Hispanic community is here, we should so they can take care of, whatever they have to do as far as, so they don't have to go so far.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for calling.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
I appreciate it. He mentioned the growth in the Hispanic population here. As I understand it, it's quite significant. It's the growth in the Hispanic population here is 5 times more, I think, than the non-Hispanic population in a given period of time. And the economic power, buying power of Hispanics, and again, many of them are Mexican Americans, Mexicans in Idaho, has jumped a lot. 11.3% in 2008. So 5.3% of Idaho's buying power is now from the Hispanic community.
That really represents the importance of the contributions of the Mexican community living in Idaho. I just knew about this release, this document that was just released by the Labor Department of Idaho, which really shows us how important is the Mexican community, how it's contributing with good work, doing good money, and contributed to the Idaho's economy.
Let's talk about the undocumented issue, though, because I'm sure you hear about it all the time. You were a border specialist in Washington, D.C. You worked at the Consulate in San Diego. A lot of concern about undocumented Mexican Americans in this country. Misconception? Appropriate concern? What's your thought?
Well, we acknowledge that there is a lot of people from Mexico living with no documents in the U.S. But we acknowledge also that there is people that is been working here for a number of years. I mean, there is people that is been living in the U.S. for the last 20 years with no opportunity to normalize their migratory situation. Probably that shows because of the contribution they are doing to the economy, because of the they want to really live here and develop here. They have encountered a new life here. They have kids and a family here. That just shows that the real need of a migratory reform in the U.S.
Immigration reform. Do you think that we'll see that under this new administration, President Obama's administration? He made it a priority to meet with your president.
Well, President Obama has talked about this. He has offered a migratory reform in the coming years. Hopefully, as far as we acknowledge also that is a U.S. issue, we recognize there is a real need for a migratory reform to take place in the U.S. Hopefully it's going to happen that.
Some people say, though, that giving amnesty again, as was given before, it just keeps rolling the issue or rolling the problem, that you just keep giving a rolling amnesty to people. How do you feel about that? Do you think that there's something other than amnesty that we could have so that this situation could be ameliorated?
Well, during the last 2 years, there's been a number of very interesting, and I put in interesting, but it's not an issue for us to analyze or to criticize or to advocate. Hopefully, we are going to have a migratory reform in the best interest of the U.S., which is going to result in the best interest of the migrants in the U.S. also.
So you don't favor any one plan over another?
Well, what I want to see, really want to see, is a migratory reform that provide options to the people, options to normalize the migratory situation. And I think and believe in the real urgency to do this.
So to come and go, basically, to be able to be more flexibility in coming and going back and forth?
That can be a way to do that.
Let's see if we can take another call
from
Mark in Boise. Mark, go ahead, please.
Hello. I'd like to talk to your guest for a second. Mexican aliens arriving into Idaho who get here and then partake in illegal activities or doing actions that violate our laws to one extent or another. Just exactly what interdiction or what actions would this consulate take to help us remedy the problem with extradition back to Mexico?
Okay, great question. Thanks. Again, concern about Mexican nationals that are in prisons or jails now, and why aren't they being extradited back to Mexico more quickly?
More quickly. Well, the Mexican government asked us to visit them, to talk with them, to be very vigilant of the human rights.
And that's one of the duties of a consulate, right? To visit people in prison or in the hospital?
That's one of the most important duties of the consulate. So we are doing that on a very regular basis. So if one people is committing some crimes, well, they are living here. We are sure that they got to obey the U.S. law. They got to obey the Idaho law. We go over there in order to be sure that they are well treated as humans. They do not have any need, and they got to comply with the punishment that they have been imposed if they commit some kind of delete over here.
But if they're undocumented, if they're here illegally, as I think I understand Mark's question, why aren't they being extradited? Why are they staying here, you know, ostensibly costing money? I think that's what he was getting at.
There are several situations involved in this issue. For example, I have said before, we have people that have been here for 20 years with no option to normalize the migratory situation. There are people here with no record, no record, and this is a fact. And at some point they are detained because, of course, they violated the U.S. law, being here with no proper documentation. No, they are detained and they return to Mexico. We just go and visit them. We just see that the proper process to do that be complied, and that they are released in Mexico. We really foresee the situation, go and visit them.
So this, it sounds like you don't have the power to move extradition or anything like that. Your responsibility is to check up on them and make sure that they're being treated fairly.
That's it.
Okay. Could we talk a little bit about, right now I think there's some concerns about the border. We may be within days of the National Guard going down to the border, not only to assist with illegal immigration issues, but with this drug situation that's going on, with this basically war that's going on between drug cartels. First of all, do you think it's appropriate for our president to call the National Guard out to be on the border to assist the border states? Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, I really cannot talk on behalf of the U.S. president and to provide an opinion regarding that. What I can say is that we have a situation at the border. The Mexican president is really committed with that fight against the drug dealing people, that we have in place a real cooperation between Mexico and the U.S. that was shown up to us with the last visit from Mr. Obama to Mexico. So we are really committed against this fight against the drug dealing people.
What about people who want to travel to Mexico right now and are concerned about the drug wars, are concerned about swine flu, H1N1 virus? What are you telling them?
Well, I will tell them that we have certain situations regarding this fight in several municipalities or counties in Mexico. It is happening in 7, 8, or 9 counties in Mexico from a total of 2,400 counties in Mexico. And regarding the so bad cold, swine flu, because it's not from swine, it's a human virus. Now we know it as a virus H1N1. Mexico, well, it is downgrading in Mexico. We have been almost able to contain.
Downgraded.
Is present in several states, but Mexico has done a lot of work in order to contain the issue. So
well, you're a native of Mexico City, and it was pretty amazing how the city just shut down.
It was a full program from Mexico, from the Mexican president, Felipe Calderon, in order to shut down the whole thing, in order to contain the virus. And we can refer this, and believe me, and we have been recognized, not even for international institutions like the World Health Organization, but also by the White House very recently, how Mexico managed this problem, how Mexico is, I would not say succeeding in this fight against the H1N1, because we are kind of managing this, but it was a whole program in order to shut down every place that could be at risk because of the crowd that's over there. So we have been very successful in doing this.
And your consulate has been giving out information to the Mexican and Mexican American community and Mexican nationals here about how to prevent swine flu and what the symptoms are. That's
positive. Once the outbreak took place in Mexico, we received immediate instruction from the Mexican government, from the Mexican Secretary of Foreign Affairs, who told us that this is the documentation, this is the ways to prevent it. We want everyone to be safe and to distribute specific information to the Spanish-speaking people, in Spanish. At the very moment, I just called the head of institutions of health here in Idaho, and the head of the health institutions and welfare institutions in Montana, in order to let them know that the consulate can be used as a tool to work with the Spanish-speaking people, no? To tell them any possible information you would like to send to the Spanish-speaking people, to the Mexican community. We can be a vehicle, a conduct to do that.
Let's take another call from
Sure.
Dale in Caldwell. Dale, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm wondering, is there any recourse for U.S. citizens who are picked up in Mexico, and the only thing the police want is cash, and then they let you go and there's no charges ever filed? Is there any recourse at all?
So is this a situation you've been involved in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Sounds like he feels mistreated by the Mexican police or authorities.
Yes, we have a number of resources. It could be the Mexican Consulate in Boise. We can file a complaint immediately and directly with the authority in Mexico. There are some other resources. For example, for one person that goes through the border and reaches Tijuana, and at some point is mistreated, no, he can complain in the Mexican Consulate in San Diego. Not even going directly. You can go to the webpage of the Mexican Consulate in San Diego and file a complaint. And you can be sure that that complaint is going to reach the head of the municipality in Tijuana.
Okay, great. So there is recourse through the consulates. Erlene in Idaho Falls. Erlene, go ahead, please.
I want to welcome the Consul General to Idaho Falls. I'm really thrilled. I'm a retired U.S. Consul myself, and my first post was in Guadalajara. So I think it's wonderful to have him here. It makes Idaho a much more international kind of place. Great ties.
Well, thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
How interesting that you're a retired U.S. Consul. Thank you very much, Erlene. We haven't talked much about trade, and we're rapidly running out of time, but people may be interested to know that Idaho's trade with Mexico is growing. I read figures, it's 35.5% up just in 1 year to over $180 million of trade, much of it agricultural. But there is a relationship between Idaho and Mexico.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I just read a release regarding how important was the trade between Idaho and Mexico, mainly agricultural trade. It was in the amount of $130 million. Last year, Governor Oder just headed a trade mission to Mexico, to Guadalajara mainly. He headed 16 people from the academia, business people, and he went and see and recognized how important is the relationship between Idaho and several cities of Mexico. Now he recognized that we have a very intertwined communities up to now.
So if somebody wants to sell product to Mexico, should they come to the consulate to get more information on doing that?
They can feel more than welcome. We are kind of developing the tools, the instruments to help them, because we have an institution called Pro Mexico that we can use at the very moment, immediately as we talk, in order to find out how the opportunities to do business with Mexico can develop immediately.
I can't end the program with asking you about, there was this U.S. military report just, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago that talked about the idea that Mexico actually might collapse into a failed state like Pakistan. And it just created a lot of reaction. I'm sure I know your response, that Mexico is not failing, but still this report came out.
I am pretty aware of this report. Just let's put the answer in the lips of several U.S. representatives and from your country. For example, the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, just answered to that question before a hearing in the U.S. Congress, telling that there's no way like that. Mexico is a vibrant and beautiful country. Mexico has a lot to offer to the world. It's a trade country, it's an investment country, it's the second partner, trade partner of the U.S., and he is looking for a better relationship with the U.S.
It cannot be easy to start a consulate from scratch, I'm sure. And so you've probably been very, very busy with just the details of all of that. But once you get through that, Consul, what do you consider your priorities to be? I know, for instance, you're interested in cultural education, cross-cultural education. What will be your main goals as the main representative of the country of Mexico in Idaho?
Yeah, reaching our people, providing them with
reaching all people.
Reaching the Mexican people, providing them with services, let them know the offer of the Mexican government regarding education, adult education, health issues, working in a real cooperative partnership with the Idaho institutions in order to provide options to the people. I mean, in terms of education, in terms of health, and in terms of literacy. We really would like to work on that. At the same time, we really would like to open our consulate to the culture. As I said before, we really would like to partner with several institutions in Idaho to bring Mexican culture, fine arts culture to Idaho.
We see here pictures from Fiesta, Idaho, which is one of the cultural celebrations here. And we'll have time for one call if it's very quick. Keith in Moscow, go ahead, but if you could be very quick, please. Keith?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead quickly.
Yes. I want to know why people come up here and work 4 or 5 years and then go back to Mexico and draw Social Security, and I don't think that's right.
They draw Social Security from the United States?
Yes.
Okay, and they're going back to Mexico and drawing it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I understood, well, this Social Security.
Yes, it's a question about people going back to Mexico after having worked here and drawing Social Security even though they're living in Mexico.
Well, I don't know the reasons, but I can tell you that the Mexican people just come here looking for a better way of living, a better way to make money, good money, after working. And then they are, if they don't have the proper documents, they are detained, they are returned. The Mexican people here, we have different, how can I call it, categories of categories of migrant or migrant situations here. Not all the persons are in a similar situation. We have successful business people living in the U.S.
But this question, and we don't know the details, so we can't really answer it. And we have very little time left. But it shows that there is some fear, that there is confusion, that there is some resentment sometimes of immigration. And I assume one of your goals will be to work on that issue, those fears.
Yeah, because we are here to work with, to issue Mexican documents. We are not here to perform any activity which is different to the activities that any consulate from the U.S. is performing abroad, or the activities of the U.S. Embassy is performing in Mexico. We are entitled for international treaties. We are entitled for the U.S. and Mexico bilateral consular convention, which is really clear in the kind of activities that we can perform in Idaho.
Well, I want to thank you, Consul, for taking the time to speak with us. The time goes so quickly. You've been listening to the Consul of Mexico to Idaho, the first Consul from Mexico, Ricardo Pineda. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Dialogue. You'll find us on our website. You'll find us on Facebook, YouTube, and check us out.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. To order a copy of this program from Idaho Public Television, call our toll-free number or visit us on the World Wide Web.